Alright, second video. Oh, long-awaited package finally came in from TE-MotorSports. Bad lighting. But the wiring harness ECU came in. Just straight off the bat, it's really well done. So yeah, especially if anyone watching is gonna do their own wiring, like you can see that this harness is really well made. It's already set up, has the output for the fuel pump and fan, even the tach output here on this, all on the same plug. We'll go over there in the corner with the ECU. Opted for the MAXXECU race. That's what this harness they sell. This is what the harness fits that they sell. It's a great ECU, lots of options. But yeah, I already jumped the gun, started doing some of it. I couldn't really wait. Bench, but I got there. Ooh, let me grab a light. I got there, cam trigger setup. I got rid of my Turbo Bandit setup. I think this is a way better and more of a user-friendly setup. I can make another video on that if wanted, but this is the Turbo Bandit one. Just a big chunky block of metal with a hole drilled in it practically. But to run the Turbo Bandit one, you had to cut the rotor bracket, but this one will bolt right onto the factory rotor bracket. And yeah, it's practically lined up right where number one is on the factory distributor. But yeah, this harness is beauty. I already started plugging some of it in. The coolant temp sensor fits right in the factory location. Like you just take one of the plugs out and one of your factory sensors. Yeah, I don't got much to complain about. Got to install the IAT sensor. Everything's labeled, like super easy. Even comes with, let's see. Oop, there go my tools. Comes with both knock sensors, IAT, TPS, brand new wideband AFR. Like, for the price that you pay for it, like, I think the quote I got for, I did not want to do my own wire harness, but the quote I received was almost the same price or just the harness that I paid for the whole setup, like the cam and crank trigger, the harness and the ECU with all the sensors is probably the same price as what I got quoted locally to me for just the harness to be made by someone, and they kept pushing me back. So luckily I opted to do this and I have no regrets. Like everything's labeled perfectly, everything's loomed nicely. The only issues I've run into so far are I probably should have specified what connector my injectors are using. Mine are using different, I have a different style connector, so I'll just have to repin those with my connectors. Other issue is if you're running the TE-MotorSports intake manifold with the kind of generic throttle body they give, I don't know if you can see, but there's some clearance issues to the power steering reservoir. So it fits, but just plan on never checking your power steering reservoir level without pulling the connector off. A little more redone. I had to redo the intake setup. I didn't like how it was, but yeah, this is it. New intercooler setup as well. Opted for a bigger J line. Fits kind of funky, but I'll have to work on that. But hopefully, a couple days this is all going to be hooked up and ready for a bass tune. So, but if I were to recommend anyone to buy anything, it would be all from TE-MotorSports. Super quick turnaround time, but it's definitely worth the money. Like from their intake manifold, comes with a rail. I don't know if you guys can see, but comes with the rail. Yeah, it all fits really nice. So besides some small things, but that's what you're gonna run into with custom stuff. But yeah, they'll add on just about anything as well. They can add, like they'll add on, like if you have extra things. Like I'm not gonna be running an idler control valve anymore. I did not know that they didn't have a plug for it, but it's something I can get around. This isn't a winter car. I won't be driving this year round, but they can add on stuff like that for you for a little bit extra, I believe. But yeah, they'll do custom harness options. And then I also got the nicer crank trigger setup. It's a generic 36-2 trigger wheel, or I think 60-2, but this is the Turbo Bandit one I have, and yeah, I don't particularly enjoy it. It wasn't, I don't know, it's not a bad setup. I think this is better than the cam setup they sell, but this one I believe goes on the front, and then just be a lot easier to install, especially if you're doing this from the beginning. But if you're like me, you're gonna end up redoing a lot of stuff. So yeah, hopefully, come on, light, stick to it. Hopefully in the next couple of videos, this thing's gonna be running. But if you'd like any videos on how this was set up or the crank trigger setup, I'll make videos on those. I know there's not many people doing working on these, especially in Canada. So, you know, I guess this is just for the people who are thinking about doing it. But yeah, that's about it. I guess stay tuned to see this running. Hopefully, I'll send a rod through this. I got H-beam rods waiting for it, so that should be interesting next year. So, well, stay tuned.